Hey everyone. So last night or early this morning, depending on how you look at it, Eric W. Schwartz released the latest page, chapter, if you will, for the Sabrina Online Zig Zag focused Stripes and Links storyline. And so far, things have been kind of like, very mellow, if you will. Zig Zag has reunited with her sister and her brother and her grandparents. But now in this latest chapter or latest page, things are pretty much getting interesting to say the least. Basically in the last chapter, we left off with, Zig Zag basically explaining to her grandma that she's basically bisexual. And that Tina is, her bisexual lover, best friend, comrade, whatever you want to call it. Or whatever you want to call her. And, her grandma, she's old school. She doesn't know some of the terminology and all that. She has an idea of certain things, but not totally. And it's kind of clued in that the grandfather, her husband, who is a tiger, so you kind of get the idea of where, Zig Zag, gets her tiger blood from and her tiger look at times from. So it's kind of, I think, implemented or hinted at that he has an idea of what she does for a living. Obviously, her siblings know what she does, because it's pretty much, called out or pretty much talked about in recent pages that came before. And so here at the dinner table, the eating and everything, and like I said, basically they go on to explain, that being Zig Zag, that her and Tina are an item, sort of, basically bisexual, pansexual item. And Brandon is more like, hey, I don't want to be here when this is discussed. Now, with that said, we do go into, like I said, the recent page in the storyline, the recent continuation of the storyline chapter, what have you. And again, things are now starting to get a little bit more interesting. Things are starting to get more interesting and all that. First of all, the grandma is happy that Zig Zag, Tanya, as her real name is, was able to visit them, and they haven't enjoyed a meal, a dinner like this in the longest time. Zig Zag Zig Zag is in agreement, saying that she's happy to be visiting as well, happy to be there, happy to see them, happy to have a dinner with them as well. And she even asked the other grandkids, aren't you glad your sister dropped by? And Brandon's like, not really. And then, Brandy calls him out about that and everything. And she basically asks him what's his deal. And that he's been in a cruddy mood since ZZ, as she calls him. That's what she calls her, ZZ, which is ZEEZEE. ZZ showed up. Zig Zag, that is, showed up. And Brandon basically tells, not Brandy, but Brandon tells Brandy, after she calls him out for his attitude, since Zig Zag arrived, that Brandy wouldn't understand. And that she was too young to truly know how it was back then. And then he points out, but she, and he's telling Brandy this, but she abandoned us, left us behind with Dad after he put us through, after all he put us through. And he says, I can't just let that go. And then he's like, so forgive me if I'm not falling all over myself in joy over some unannounced visit from, and then the grandfather's telling him, Brandon, that's enough. And then the grandma interjects and says, we know you suffered because of your father, but so has Tanya, more than you could ever understand. However, Tanya, Zig Zag, ends this page, this current chapter, if you will, by saying he's not wrong though. And it's left at that, and it makes you wonder, well, what does she mean by he's not wrong? And basically, I think what we're going to get here is Zig Zag admitting that, look, Brandon is right. I did, up and leave you guys. I up and left you guys with Dad without, letting you know why I was leaving. I've got a feeling she's going to explain that she did it, out of emotion, out of anger, and that, being 18 at the time, she wasn't thinking like, oh, I need to still be here and support my siblings, or I need to find a way to bring my siblings with me, and stuff like that. So I'm sure she's going to admit that, yeah, she is at fault for just up and leaving the way she did, but she's also going to explain, you know, that she did it out of emotional anger and everything because she wanted to, you know, just get away from this environment, but she wasn't thinking clearly of, oh, I'm leaving my siblings in the hands of this monster. And I like the fact that the grandmother does basically tell Brandon that, look, we know you've all suffered because of your father, but so has your sister, more than you can fully understand. And I think with that being said right there, I think with the grandma telling Brandon, hey, she's been through more than you can ever imagine, I think that's when we're going to, you know, Brandon basically, I should say, along with us, the readers, mostly the newer readers, we're going to get clued in, along with Brandon and Brandy, as to why Zig Zag up and left the way she did. And that basically it's because of what the father did to her without her consent. And I don't want to say the word here, but it starts with an R, and the other on the other way of saying it, S-A, you know, and all that. That's all I'm going to say. You know, that's all I'm going to say right there. That's all I'm going to, you know, hint at as to what the words and everything are going to be utilized, I'm assuming, in the next page or next several pages, to where Zig Zag, like I said, she's going to admit, yes, Brandon's right. You know, I did abandon you guys. I did leave you with Dad, but I was young. I wasn't thinking straight. I let my emotions get the best of me. But there's a reason. But there's a reason why I did it, and it's a reason that I think you need now. You need now to know, or you and Brandy need to know now, basically. And I think that's when Brandy and Brandon are going to find out the truth. They're going to find out that Zig, you know, was basically abused, you know, in a very unconsenting manner by their father, you know, unbeknownst to them. You know, she was abused in a very unconsenting manner, you know, by having herself R'd, I'm not going to say the word, and S-A'd, you know, and that's it. She was, you know, she's going to explain that, you know, their father R'd and S-A'd her, you know, behind their backs, and that they didn't, and that had they known that he had done that, at least Brandon, that maybe Brandon would better understand why she upped and left, that she couldn't be there. So I think things are going to get worked out, and Brandon, this is what I think is going to happen. You know, they're going to explain the situation. Zig Zag's going to admit, look, he is right. I up and left you guys. I shouldn't have done that, but I was emotionally scarred over what happened to me personally. And then that's when she's going to acknowledge to them, along with the grandparents, this is why I did this. This is what happened with me and Dad that you guys don't know about. And then that's what's going to get Brandon and Brandy, I should say, and mostly Brandon to understand, or to fully understand, oh, now we get it. We understand. And, but I think Brandon is also going to be a little upset, like, well, okay, I understand that. I didn't know that. But couldn't you have just, you know, waited a little bit more? Like, waited till I was a little older and then we could have, all three of us left, you know? And, you know, maybe Zig Zag will agree, like, yeah, I could have waited, but you know, basically he did so much to me that I couldn't stand it anymore, you know? So yeah, what I see happening here in the next page, the next chapter of the story is basically Zig Zag's going to admit that Brandon's right, that she did up and leave them and abandon them and everything, and allowed him to put them through a lot more than necessary. But honestly, she's going to not only admit to that, but she's also going to explain why she did it, like emotionally and mentally. She just, you know, was put through so much that she just couldn't take it anymore, and she just decided, you know, not to think straight and just, you know, get out of there as quickly as she can, not considering, oh, I'm leaving my siblings in the hands of this monster. You know, so I think basically she's going to admit fault to that, but she's also going to acknowledge why she did it. And then that's when Brandy and mostly Brandon are going to find out, oh, that's why you left. We didn't know that. And I think they'll have a better understanding of the situation. But I also think Brandon's going to be like, you know, okay, I apologize, I didn't know. But why couldn't you contact us? Or why didn't you come back for us when you could to take us with you when the opportunity could have presented itself? And I think one of the things that Zig Zag might mention is that she was probably going to think about doing it to let them know why she left and everything, call them up. but that she was afraid the father would pick up the other line or pick up the phone instead and maybe threaten harm to her siblings if she didn't come back. So again, this is just mere speculation on my part, looking on what's happened here on the recent page. But I think honestly that's what's going to happen. I think Zig Zag's going to admit Brandon's right about her up and leaving them, when she shouldn't have. But she's also going to admit, why she did it. Admit that, hey, emotionally I was scarred to a point that I just wasn't thinking straight and I just had to get out of here. I didn't consider that, I'm leaving you guys in the hands of a monster that thankfully you got out of, because of our grandparents, So I could see her explaining that and then revealing along with the grandparents, revealing, why, why she left, why she was emotionally scarred, why she went and did what she did without thinking, I should maybe stay and remain to support and be there for my siblings, or, hey, maybe I should find a way to get back there and get my siblings out of there as best I can, or whatever. So, so I think a lot's going to get revealed in the next couple of weeks with the story, and I think basically, Zig Zag's going to realize that the reason she acts the way she does impulsively, like when she kisses somebody without the consent, like she did with Endora, or the way she's been predatorial to like someone like Sabrina when she first started out, is because she gets it from not just maybe her grandfather because of the tiger blood that flows through her, but also from her father. Like basically she has a bit of that predatorialness that her father had, or territorialness that her father had of, hey, I could do what I want because I'm this person. I can do what I want. If I want to R you or I want to SA you or whatever, if I want to humiliate you, I'm going to do it. And I think that's when it's going to hit Zig Zag that the things that she has done, are just little nuances here and there that she's inherited, unfortunately, from her father, so that the best way she can get around that is to basically learn not to do that, then to kind of control herself. And I think that's going to be the end result. She's going to learn to control herself, but also acknowledge, look, I know I shouldn't have done what I did and everything to you, Endora, and because I think she will. She will definitely, I should say, apologize to Endora. And she'll probably just finally admit that, look, the reason I've acted the way I did towards you, and the reason I've acted the way I've done to you all the time, Sabrina, is because part of that comes from me, having a little bit of tiger blood coming through me. So being part tiger, I kind of look at people like you, like, prey and everything that I can go after. But also, I think she's going to admit that she also gets it, unfortunately, from her father of, hey, she can do whatever she wants. Basically, whether I'm trying to find the right word to say, whether somebody's consenting of it or not, she can do whatever she wants, and that she's going to apologize for those actions, and that she's going to make a promise to do better, not to, let that control her or anything, and that she'll only act if consented. So I think that's what's going to happen there. But yeah, a lot based on what I see here is really just building up to revelations in the next few weeks that I cannot wait to see. And I'm sure I'm not the only one alone in that. But like I said, I think what we're getting next week, as far as the continuation here, is a revelation towards Brandy and Brandon that the reason Zig Zag left and abandoned them potentially without thinking, because she's even admitting, hey, he's not wrong, is because of, she was emotionally scarred based on what the father did to her by R-ing her and S-A-ing her without her consent. And again, I think that's going to lead to her realizing that that's the one thing that she gets from her father that she needs to, get away from, that she needs to try to control basically, in the future. And that is not to, pounce on somebody. That is not to kiss somebody or try to get it on with somebody without the consent. If they say no, be like, hey, okay, no problem. You don't want to do it. That's not a problem. Sorry about that. And I think what it's going to lead eventually in the end, when this is all said and done, is Zig Zag admitting to, well, first of all, apologizing to Endora, for what happened, and admitting to them this is why she acts the way she does. She's got that tiger blood flowing through her, and also the fact that it's a trait, unfortunately, she gets from her father, and that she needs to, get away from that. She needs to try to get away from that and everything, or at least control it so it doesn't happen again. So I think that's what's going to ultimately lead to in the end. That's what I think it's going to ultimately lead to in the end with Zig Zag. Like I said, next week revelations are going to be revealed. We're going to probably get flashbacks in the next few weeks as to when those revelations are explained, mostly to Brandon and Brandy. And Brandon, he'll be apologetic, but he'll still be wondering, like, okay, I understand, I didn't know that, but he's going to ask Zig Zag, why didn't you contact us? Why didn't you just call us up and say, hey, this is why, explain why you left. Tell us the truth. And I could see Zig Zag, like I said earlier, telling him that she was considering it, but that she also worried that if she did, the father would call up and threaten harm to them if she didn't show back up. So that's just my opinion. But overall, things are getting interesting now. And like I said, next week, I think we're going to get a lot more revelations. We're going to get Zig Zag admitting that she was wrong for leaving them and abandoning them, the way she did by up and leaving. But she's going to admit that she was so emotionally scarred that she wasn't thinking straight, and that she should have either considered, and that if she could go back, that she would probably tell herself, oh, she would reconsider her actions and just tough it out until she could find a way to get her and her siblings out of there, and into the hands of the grandparents and so on. So I could see Zig Zag apologizing for up and leaving when she, did, but she's also going to acknowledge that she was emotionally scarred and that she wasn't thinking. So she's going to admit that, yes, he is right, and she's going to apologize for it, but that's when the revelation is going to come out from her and the grandparents that this is what happened, with her and their father, and as to why emotionally, she was scarred the way she was, to the point that she wasn't thinking straight when she upped and left without letting them know, or, that she was leaving, or basically let them know, hey, I'm going to leave, I'm going to run away. You guys want to come with me so we can get out of this environment. So again, I think a lot of stuff's going to be coming up, revelation wise next week and going into the next few weeks. I still think though, at the end, we're going to get a Fur After Dark tie-in, with this story. And I think it's going to be, Zig Zag and Endora getting it on with each other, because I think on the Endora end of things, we're going to find out that she was, in her younger days, a little bit like a Zig Zag. She was basically a wild child, and she used to go and have some very lewd parties, or take part in some very lewd parties and post lewd activities, if you will, NFSW, if you will, with other men and especially women like Zig Zag. So I think that's the revelation that's going to get brought out from Sabrina's mom, Endora, eventually. And we're going to find out Endora, in my opinion, probably made a promise that after she met Sabrina's dad, that she was going to hide that, part of her past, hide that part of her past in the back of her mind, lock it away, and never revisit it ever again. And it's probably going to get revealed that when she got kissed, and instead of her stopping Zig Zag from kissing her, it was Zig Zag herself that stopped herself. I think it's going to get revealed that when Zig Zag kissed her, it unlocked those memories, and that's why the mother is, kind of quiet and doesn't want to talk about it, because it would, make her remind her of what she had done in her youth, being very similar to Zig Zag. Again, just my opinion. I could be wrong about it, but that's just my opinion. But I think with this recent chapter and the argument and everything between Brandy and Brandon, and then Brandon not being happy and everything, he's basically, what it sounds like to me is Brandon just wants Zig Zag to say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have abandoned you the way I did, and if I can make it up to you, I will. And I think Brandon, once he finds out, he's going to be apologetic too, as to, when he finds out the real reason. But he's also going to be like, well, if you want to make it up to us, can you at least try to either get us out of this area, or can you at least come back and visit more often than you do? So it's going to be something to where either they're going to move in with her in some capacity, or they're going to agree to have her, consentedly come and visit more often than she usually does. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the next several weeks. But yeah, like I said, a lot of revelations I think are going to be made next week when it comes to Brandy and Brandon, mostly Brandon finding out the truth and everything, as to why Zig Zag up and left, and and all that. Zig Zag coming out and apologizing for leaving and abandoning them the way she did, but then acknowledging why she did it and revealing the truth as to what happened between her and the father, and basically admitting that she was emotionally scarred so much that she wasn't mentally thinking, if I leave here without my siblings, or I leave here, on my own, I'm going to leave them in the hands of this monster, and I can't do that. She's going to probably acknowledge she wasn't emotionally thinking straight, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it, honestly, next week to see what Eric brings to the table with the next chapter and everything going forward. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the future of the story. I'm looking forward to the end result. Like I said, I still think we're going to get a 4 After Dark tie-in with Zig Zag and Endora. Kind of getting it on, where I think Endora is going to want to at least have one more fling, because, like I said, I think the kiss opened up those memories that she wanted to suppress from her days as a youth. So I think that's what's going to happen. And if not, I think we might get one between her and Tina the Lynx, that is, basically getting it on in the hotel room, prior to, Zig Zag arriving back, at her own stopping grounds to meet up with her siblings. So I think we're going to get one of those two for After Dark tie-ins in the future. But overall, I'm enjoying this, and I do recommend, if you guys have not read it yet, go to sabrinaonline.com or sabrina-online.com and check it out there. I think you'll really enjoy what you see, and I can't recommend it any more than what I'm already gushing about here. So I do recommend you guys check it out. But until then, guys, like the video, ring the bell for notification, subscribe to the channel. Also, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere. You can find me in all your audio and video podcast affiliates like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Audible, Spotify, Radio Public, Overcast. Anywhere there's a podcast, you'll probably find mine there as well. Also, check me out at odyssey.com at BW Roses. Also, check me out at rumble.com at BW Roses. Also, at VENMO.com at BW Roses. Check out the Cash App and the Venmo as well to help out in there and help out in that area if you'd like. Also, check out the Teespring store. Click on the link there for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. And find me over at Twitter at twitter.com, now known as X, at BW Roses, and at bluesky.com at BW Roses as well. But guys, those are just my thoughts on this recent recent page of the Stripes and Links story. It is the 44th page of the story of the Sabrina Online Zig Zag-centric story. Let me know what your thoughts are overall. What are you looking forward to as we approach the 50th page, which will be in the next 6 weeks. And until next time, guys, I will talk to y'all later. God bless. Take care. But again, check it out. You will enjoy it.